It's Kurt here from City Campus, and we're starting a new series today, and I hope you'll like it. It's called Sacrifice, and I'll be studying some of the sacrifices in the Bible, both Old and New Testament, and see how they apply to you today. I hope you'll hit share, and I hope you will take a chance to subscribe our YouTube channel if you can. And in general, I'm just so glad you're here. It's a Monday morning. It's time to go back to work for everybody. Me too. And let's take a couple minutes in the Word before we do. Well, this week we're going to be studying various sacrifices, including the Old Testament blood sacrifices that we find in Leviticus and Samuel. The sacrifice God desires, and we'll talk about some of those things. A sacrifice for us by God, our sacrifice, part 1 and 2. So we're going to start with the Old Testament blood sacrifice, probably one of the more interesting parts of the Bible. We find this in Leviticus 17:11 and 2 Samuel 24:24, and of course, hundreds of other places through the Old Testament. Let's read a couple of these passages. Leviticus 17:11 says, "For the life of the body is in its blood. I've given you the blood on the altar to purify you, making you right with the Lord." It's the blood given in exchange for a life that makes purification possible. And we see this blood relation to purification throughout the Old Testament. And again, I see that as primarily a picture of Christ. We'll talk about that in just a minute. 2 Samuel 24:24 says this, "But the king replied to Araunah, 'No, I insist upon buying it, for I'll not present burnt offerings to the Lord my God that have cost me nothing.' So David paid him 50 pieces of silver for the threshing floor and oxen." You see, David was wanting to sacrifice to God, but he also wanted to make sure that it cost him something. And that's where we kind of get into our message for today. Sacrifice in the Old Testament was just exactly that, a sacrifice. You had to spend money, you had to spend time, sometimes you had to suffer to honor God. And you saw this suffering, you saw this money being spent because at the sacrifice you saw the blood. In fact, sometimes you had to do the sacrificing, cut the neck of the animal yourself. It could have been your blood, but it was the animals pouring out. It was an object lesson and a way for people to actually understand that getting salvation and protection from God was costly. Why? Because it is costly. And by the way, they use these animals. These animals all became, for the most part, food for either the people that were doing the sacrifice or for the priests who were working in God's kingdom. So the priests made their meals and so on and so forth off of the sacrifice. The only thing that was really burned up to God was the fat. And so we're going to use Romans 12, that's 12:1 as our passage this week. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. So we kind of using that as our base verse for the week. And I hope that makes sense to you. We do, just in the same way in the Old Testament, they did the sacrifices. But now our sacrifice is living. We're ongoing. It's not a sacrifice where we had to kill anything. The sacrifice for us has already been made. Now we give our lives as a living sacrifice to God. Well, it looks to me like it's going to be a great study. So I hope you'll stay with us this week and give a chance to study this topic of sacrifice. And I hope you'll get a chance to come to City Campus sometime if you've been watching these. That's at 1710 East 10th in Jeff, inside Maxwell's House of Music. We had a great service yesterday, and I'm sure that you would be blessed if you got a chance to come. And until then, let's have prayer, and then we'll get you on with your day. God, thank you for sacrificing your son for us. Father, help us to make the kind of sacrifices that you understand and that you approve. And Father, know in the Old Testament, we sacrificed animals to show us how much it was costing us to be in relationship with you. And Father, I pray that we'll understand that cost today. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey guys, I hope you have a great day, and we'll be talking to you real soon. Thanks.